Have you noticed that you can't leave the house today without seeing kids on every street corner loitering in their Peckelhaube and red kepis? Do you remind your child that it's time for Taekwondo class only to have them say, "But Daddy, I wouldn't have to learn melee combat if I had a Shazpot rifle. The Shazpot had an effective range of 1,200 meters and was far superior to the Prussian Dreise needle gun." Or you say, "It is time to get ready for school," and your kids respond, "Maybe you should divert funding from fortresses to railways like Helmut von Moltke if you want us to mobilize faster." Your local Warhammer store is empty now because all the kids have spent their money on 10mm Franco-Prussian war miniatures. We here at the Analog Wargamer channel have our finger on the pulse of today's youth, and that is why today we're going to show you how to paint 10mm Franco-Prussian War French line infantry using the most on-trend paints you can imagine, Army Painter Speedpaints. Let's start our Army Painter Speedpaints video by not using Army Painter Speedpaints. I'm using Guilliman Flesh here because I just like it a little better than the Speedpaint flesh colors. I'm doing the flesh parts first because right now those are very easy to see, and if we go over these details with darker colors by accident later, it will be a lot more difficult to find them, right? So similar here with the blood red, we're going to do the kepi, the epaulets, and the pants, right? Those epaulets are especially easy to accidentally paint over with the dark blue, which we're going to do in the next step, right? So I'm picking them out now so that they've been clearly identified. It's just easier to see them on this off-white primer than it would be to see them after we've accidentally painted over them with the dark blue. So filming this was quite a challenge. And I chose 10mm because I knew I could paint one of these little guys really fast. But then we have this macro photography challenge to actually be able to see the miniature being painted, right? Which was, I must say, no easy feat. I actually did 3 of these guys, I think, and tried filming from different angles with different cameras until I found this, which seems to sort of work. Alright, just finishing up the red here. Now we're onto the dark blue. I'm using Cloudburst blue for this. The dark blue, of course, is the color of the coat, right? The gray coat. It's really this combination of the dark blue coat, the red kepi, and the red pants that I think make this uniform so much fun to paint. Really, I don't know. Something about the Franco-Prussian War, the uniforms have a lot of the same visual appeal that the Napoleonic uniforms do, but they're just a little bit more modern, right? So there's, I don't know how to describe it. Maybe they're a little less silly in a way. Although, you know, that Peckelhaube on the Prussians is a little silly, but all part of the fun. Another great thing, you don't have as many straps, right? Especially white straps as you have in the Napoleonic period, which is always painful. Okay, so now hardened leather. This is just a reddish brown color. We're going to use this on the backpack, which is kind of a, you know, furry brown sort of backpack sort of thing. Let's take a little of that excess paint off. And get the little underneath part. Painting 10mm is not as hard as you'd think it would be. Alright, now black. The black from the Speedpaints line is sometimes a little weak for me. You know, you get more of a gray often, right? If it, I don't know, it's a little too thin for me sometimes, but we're going to use it here. It's going to work out okay. We're doing the bayonet scabbard, which is just under the bread bag. And of course the shoes. So here we're doing the like the visor on the kepi in black. Oh, and the mustache. Yeah, some of these guys do have mustaches. I don't always paint them, right, because it's kind of barely visible at 10mm. But I don't know. If I happen to see the mustache, might as well paint the mustache. Everyone in France has black hair as far as my painting table is concerned. Oh, also did the, I think there's like a cartridge box or something, a little pouch under the backpack. Also black. Alright, so what do we got here? This is the dark wood, I think it is called, yes. And we're going to use this on the chaise-peau and also the bundle of sticks. There's like a little bundle of, like, I don't know, they're tent stakes or something I think they're used to. Set up the tent for this guy that he might sleep in. Not sure what those were at first. Maybe they were, you know, baguettes or something, but nope, they're tent stakes. Or tent poles, maybe. Alright, we're doing the rifle. Just carefully getting it around the hands. Again, we painted the hands first because it's easy to accidentally not see them and paint over them. And we're touching this up. I missed this little, so they tend to fold up like the front corners of their coat, right? And I missed that little folded up corner on that side. So High Lord blue here, this is a lighter blue, and we're going to use that on the canteen. Just right there. So this is not a speed paint. This is actually Banshee Brown, another army painter paint, just their regular acrylic Warpaints line. And we're using this to paint the bread bag. And we're really using this as like a, I don't know, base color or undercoat for something that's going to be kind of off-white. We'll be going over this later with a, I don't know, lighter off-white sort of color. And now we're painting the, it's like this cloth roll. I think it's the tent, honestly. Obviously, he's already wearing his greatcoat, so it's not a greatcoat. So I think it might be the tent, either that or it's a nice big blanket. I don't know, but it's like a big blanket roll sort of thing that goes up and around his backpack. And we're painting. This is actually Vallejo light gray, just kind of my go-to light gray color. I'm using this instead of the speed paints because sometimes I've splashed a little of some other color on that thing, and it's easier to just paint it in this color as opposed to painting it like back to the primer color and then doing the speed paint over that. So now we're working on metallic parts here. This is plate mail metal. This is probably a bit too shiny compared to what gun barrels typically look like. However, it makes it stand out a little bit at this scale. When you're going with 10mm, brighter is often better. Otherwise, everything just looks like, black or gray sort of dots or smudges on the base, right? So I think it's okay to paint things a little brighter than they normally would be. That goes for all of the colors, not just metallics. But yep, so we're doing, of course, the bayonet and the rifle barrel. There's also like a little, I think I was painting that earlier, there's a little like, I don't know, it's a cooking pot or a cup or something, but there's a little, there it is, a little metallic piece of equipment there up on his head, which strikes me as odd. Those things might, seems like it would hit his head, right, as he was marching along. All right, so what they say about the speed paints reactivating is true. So you do have to be careful, right? You don't want to rub it too much. However, you can go over it with a wash as long as it's nice and dry, right? You've given it a few minutes to dry, and then you sort of quickly and with finesse and a soft brush, etc., you can go over bits of the model with a wash. Here I'm using strong tone, just kind of filling in some places there the paint didn't go, or if the paint had receded a little bit, or just any place that I want to darken up a bit. You just don't want to rub the speed paints, right, because they will come off. But again, one sort of gentle coat that's not too wet, that seems to work just fine. Okay, here's what we look like at this stage. Got most of the major components painted. We're going to go ahead and paint the base. And I am using for this flat earth from Vallejo. It's kind of my go-to brown basing color. You could use any brown that goes with whatever basing that you want to use, obviously. Now, this is a Vallejo Model Air White. And I'm actually going to... Let's see here. This is... The actual number on this is 71.270. This is one of my favorite, off-white paints. So it's an airbrush paint. It's somewhat thin, but you can still brush it on just fine, and I'm just using that to highlight the bread bag. And also to clean up the gaiters a little bit, right? So they have these white gaiters, and sometimes between the pants and the shoes, you might splash some color on there that you don't want. So just added a bit of that, and here he is, ready to go. Here are my first 3 bases of French line infantry, ready to be poorly led to calamitous defeat by the corrupt and ineffective Second Empire. You don't get the real impact of these smaller scales until you have hundreds of the little guys painted. I painted a single mini for illustration purposes, but normally I might do them in batches of 10 to 30 at a time. Zooming in on them doesn't do them any favors either. Larger scales are probably more popular now, in part because they are more photogenic and look better on social media. This was my first attempt at a painting video and an experiment. Those stock photography children will not starve if you don't like this video and subscribe to this channel, but if you did those things, you may see me make more painting videos. Until that time, when an overwhelming popular opinion or the demanding muses call me to make another video, I bid you adieu.